And good morning. Good morning, good people. I'm Ani, and I'm here this morning, sans Teresa, for Teresa had an early appointment. She sends her best and asked me to carry on without her. So I will be doing just that. Though this will be a little shorter show since we cannot have our witty banter together. But I do hope that you are there. Please feel free to comment. And well, let's just get to the tempe of the matter. I've heard a lot about folks who really aren't sure that they could possibly vote for a candidate that, well, is an establishment Democrat, basically. And I think it's no surprise to say that in this last few months, Teresa and I have rather enthusiastically been supporting the Harris Walz ticket. Why do we do that? Well, because at this point in our history in this country, I really don't see an alternative, right? And so, what do I mean by that? Because obviously, third parties still exist. I've been a huge supporter and proponent of third parties and third party organizing for most of my life. But here we have come to a very critical time in our history. And anyone that watched the debate on what was that, Tuesday night, has a very fresh and visceral memory of what we're up against, right? Um, there are, for all intents and purposes, two main candidates going for the White House this election season. And what we see, of course, there are other candidates one could vote for on an ideological sort of purity basis, but that's not really going to get them into the White House. And as uh, as much of an idealist as I am, I'm also pretty pragmatic. And I understand how much of an unmitigated disaster it would be for us all to have a return of Colt 45 to the White House. I think that becomes ever more clear with pretty much every passing day, but certainly after the debate this Tuesday, it is crystal clear, almost like a crystal knocked, because the trope that immigrants are going to come for your pets, that people who are other than, I'm just going to say, WASPs, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant sort of leaning folks, we'll throw in straight at the same time there, um, that that unless you are in fact sort of mega certified, then you are suspect, you are othered, you are vermin. We've heard Trump use that phrase before. And we have seen results of what happens when uh, the Cult 45 writ large, the allies, the supporters of that guy, we see what happens when this kind of hogwash, racist hogwash, falls from his mouth. We see that in Springfield, Ohio this week after that debate. Um, it- I have a hard time calling it a debate, but there it was. Uh, it was it was something to see. That after Trump claims, without any base whatsoever, without any foundation in fact, that uh, immigrants, specifically Haitian people, are going to eat your cats. They've been eating dogs. People's pets are going missing, and they're stealing the geese from the lakes there in Springfield, Ohio. And how this is possibly, just going to be happening all over the world right about now because, or all over the country right about now because of lax border policies. So hide your women, hide your kinfolk, hide your cats, right? So this is not new. This is one of the most racist, tried and true tropes that we have really to fall back on. Um, the outcry from anyone really who is thinking, the outcry has been loud from that, and they're not backing away. They're doubling down. They're memeing more, and it's appalling. It's abysmal. These lies, these racist stereotypes and tropes are there to rile people up, to try to inflame the mega base, and to go forth and take action. And it's not just taking action of voting for mega. Uh, it is, in fact, at this point, dangerous. It is, we have seen in the last few days um, people phoning in bomb threats to the Springfield City Hall, that attacks against migrants are going up, against immigrants are going up, that there have been reporters who have talked to Haitian people in the area who are now fearing for their lives and fearing for their safety based on the reactions they are seeing around them. A man reported his coworkers are now asking him, how many cats he eats. A woman is afraid of letting her children go to school for fear that they're going to be attacked. This is having this, I too have laughed at the ridiculous nature of that claim. And yet it's having very real consequences for people who are already suffering, who are already on the downside of power, who have already had to leave everything they've known to try to eke out a new life in some semblance of safety in the US. So it's abysmal. It is absolutely dangerous. It's dangerous rhetoric, right? Beyond that, we know that he was trying to sell the presidency to the highest bidder, telling oil execs just a few months ago that if they contributed, money now, it'll be the best deal they'll ever make because he will, in fact, strip all environmental regulations because he seems to keep putting out there that climate change is not real, flying in the face of evidence every day across the globe about drastically changing weather patterns and much greater storms, droughts, and floods than we have seen before. So, this is a dangerous situation, right? And I'm going to go ahead and say I'm queer. Most people know this. And as somebody who is in a queer couple with my trans gal wife, I have to say again, the anti queer, anti LGBTQ rhetoric uh, that has spun and spun and spun is again making life more dangerous and more difficult right now for those of us in this community on the downside of power, right? And so what we have are a couple of blowhards in Cult 45 and Vance who are actively working to make many lives, the lives of many, many, many folks in this country very, very hard, uncomfortable, who are inciting violence against us, against immigrant communities, against people of color. They are spewing hatred. They are spewing nonsense, anti science, and they are spewing dangerous ideas that are inflaming folks that might not be really, let's just say, well educated, who have not been shown how to use analytical thinking and who are easily manipulated into being the brown shirt foot soldiers to carry out uh, the to carry out actions based on fears that these two candidates are generating, right? That that fear that they are generating is there to get them elected. They don't care about the consequences that their actions will have on me, will have on Teresa, will I say pointing to the empty chair, will have on immigrants, will have on Haitians in particular, or people who are identified as Haitians or immigrants, right? Um, they don't care. They don't give a flying damn about any of us. They don't give a flying damn about their mega supporters, which Trump has actually said at their rallies, right? I don't care about you. I just want your vote, right? He has actually those, the shit that flies out of his mouth is astonishing. I'm just going to put it there. But we know this. And so, why am I spending a lot of time preaching to the choir here, right? I think that most people who uh, tune in and create our community on Friday mornings, you're clear on this. But what I want to speak to is the idea that we need to spread far and wide, and that is our our need to keep Colt 45 out of the White House for his return tour is enormous. I would say is actually primary. That is the biggest need we have right now. I actually am enthusiastic about Walz, and I'm pretty enthusiastic about Kamala Harris for a number of reasons. We've gone into those before. I think that this election gives us a chance to turn towards the Harris Walz ticket that will allow us to continue organizing and to continue pushing. I've heard people say, "Oh, this debate really sure Trump was every bit as awful as we would expect him to be." Sure. But there's Kamala, sort of backtracking as hard as she can about fracking because she realizes pragmatically that she's going to need the votes. Folks in Pennsylvania who are scared economically and who are, um, in some degree, some sections of that population are pro fracking because they are afraid of losing work. So I get it. I get it. She is saying things to be um, more appealing to a wider section of America. And I hate that. Okay, I'm just going to flat out say I hate it. I wish that didn't happen. I wish to Christ that she would not also sort of talk about getting tough on immigration and reinforcing the borders and all of that rhetoric as well. I wish that she would run the other direction. I truly do. I am appalled. Appalled doesn't cut it. There is no word for the depth of feeling and despair I have when we are talking about genocide, right? And still, the US continues to support uh, Israel in its quote, defense of itself. In other words, for anyone that can actually see international news, we're talking about, in fact, the genocide of the Palestinian people. That's heavy. I mean, it's hard to get heavier. And yet, I'm gonna say, if Trump's in the White House, that situation does not change, right? Not only would Trump not not try to stop the genocide, but in fact that but in fact, his son-in-law, remember him, Jared, has actually talked about what a great real estate opportunity the clearing of Gaza would be. Look at that. It's shorefront property, it's ocean side, it's got real potential for development as long as it gets cleared out first. Never mind war crimes, never mind the UN. So I'm going to say not voting for Harris does not solve anything. If we decide, and I think I've said in my own history, in my own past, I can't possibly vote for a mainstream Democratic candidate of the past because I don't want to sully myself with that, right? I don't want to sign on and say, yeah, I've supported this candidate that I know is going to increase military spending because that's what presidents do. And that's why before I was 18, I was trying to organize with the Citizens Party. I thought as soon as I can vote, I will cast every vote in my life for the Citizens Party. Okay, well, the Citizens Party is great. We never came to power. I became a Pacific Party, a green Pacific Greens activist for a while. And again, wonderful people, great ideas, and we're not actually being elected, right? Um, it's at this point to stay ideologically pure and to say, I am not going to put my life's energy behind any of these candidates, none of them speak for me, means that there is a much better chance that the worst candidate I believe we have ever seen, ever, would be getting in which case the attacks on Haitian people, the attacks on immigrants in general, the attacks on the LGBTQ communities, and the attacks on anyone that is not a mega waving maniac, really, will continue. The planet will burn at an ever faster speed as, in fact, he gives favor to his benefactors. That would be big oil. And none of our situation gets better. Absolutely none. That's why we have to enthusiastically support the Harris-Walz ticket. That debate was something else. It's gonna play in my mind for a while. There were a couple of times I actually stood and fist bumped into the air, that, uh, I just have to say, when, Harris mentioned that Trump has a predilection for really liking strong men, right? He loves a despot. There's not been a despot he hasn't loved. There's from Rocket Man to to Putin. He's there. He loves them. And I loved it when Harris mentioned, Putin's really not your friend. He would eat you for lunch. I thought, yes, this is a wonderful thing to really put right there in our heads, front and center. He is thinking, he's absolutely delusional in thinking that his close buddy Putin and him would rule the world together, I think. Um, that's not true. Of course, Putin is far more ruthless than that. And I think he finds a useful stooge in Trump. A useful stooge that I'm sure he has enough on that he knows that he has secured Trump's favor. So there's a couple of other things that I want to mention before I get into the tarot section of the show. And that is, there was an address in the Senate yesterday, an address to lawmakers from Senator Whitehouse, Sheldon Whitehouse, who is urging, along with 62 other lawmakers, um, Jamie Raskin and Whitehouse have been pushing very hard for uh, climate action at the highest levels. White House, our very own Oregon Jeff Merkley, Jamie Raskin, and 63 other lawmakers are urging the Biden administration to finalize strict clean hydrogen tax credit rules. Um, I would love for everyone to watch a video of Sheldon Whitehouse's address on to the lawmakers yesterday. It is easily found on YouTube. I will actually put a link to it in the description for this show. It is an important thing to see. He points out that climate change is not just sort of a theoretical future sort of thing, that in fact it's here, it's now, it's happening, and it's affecting us all, especially economically. And here it is. It's he mentions the crisis in insurance with the changes that we see along coastlines, with the predictions of ocean rising, with the increased storms along the coast, especially, and with the increase in wildfires in the West. There are some areas of the country that are becoming uninsurable, or whose insurance rates are so high that regular folks cannot afford to insure their homes. This is causing an even greater crisis in the mortgage world and in real estate. It is going to start affecting land values, right? Real estate values. It's also affecting crops. And right now, he was talking about the increase in costs for food, a lot of which can be laid at the feet of climate change. As droughts have devastated orange production in Florida, and droughts and storms, climate orange production in Florida and Brazil, as well as coffee production, as well as cocoa production, as well as the production of olive oil. Because again, all of these crops have been affected by a drought or by multiple droughts and fire and floods. And so all of these prices have gone up, because I'm getting a little happy and distracted because in fact Teresa has just come in. I don't know if she really wants to jump on the air straight from the doctor. Nah, she doesn't.
No.
Okay, but she wants to wave behind my head. So anyway, we see that prices are increasing, not just because of corporate greed, though I'm going to say that is probably the first and foremost reason prices have been increasing, but also because of climate change. Because, and he also points out not only the crop failures and shortages in harvest causing that inflation, or as he put it, climateflation, because let's really focus on the cause, that we have also the shipping of crops around the world, because of course we don't just eat locally, we buy export crops from around the world. And well, as he points out, the Panama Canal ran dry enough that traffic was limited for many months last year, that all of these problems in shipment because of natural disasters, storms, droughts, etc., that also has a direct effect on increasing costs. Please do watch Senator Sheldon Whitehouse's uh, address. It was impressive, and it brings home the importance of focusing on climate change as soon as the Harris Walz ticket takes the White House. Go Team Blue. Um, as a lifelong anarchist, it kind of still sticks in my throat saying go Team Blue. It does. But I really am, like I said, I'm excited about the fact that we have Walz, who has been a very vocal supporter and advocate of the LGBTQ communities. He is, I mean, these are the first folks who are kind of Gen Xy. I think they're maybe a year away from actually being Gen X, to actually get in there, right? To say, yeah, we're taking over. It's like this generational shift. And I'm here for it. We need this generational shift. We need to get perspectives. I love the fact that I'm thinking of 60-year-olds as like, the youngsters. But when we have Trump, who is in fact 78 and, completely out of touch, they seem kind of young. I mean, the last presidential candidate I was really, really gung ho for was Bernie Sanders. So, I'm going to say significantly younger. So, um, goodness, golly me, there we are. There's a little disturbance in the field. I'm very sorry about that little technical issue. Um, okay, so what does this all mean? It means that we have a lot of work cut out for us. It means that we need to bring in this team of the Harris Walz presidency, that we need to continue organizing and move forward, because climate change is not going to wait for us to figure it out. It is terrifying. It is at our door. It's happening now. It's been happening for a while. We need to take immediate action to mitigate it. I know that some folks have been talking about, Harris's apparent flipping on fracking, flip fracking, flip flop fracking. Anyway, um, I get it. That is disturbing to see. If you listen very closely to a couple of the statements she made, I can't swear to all of them, but a couple of the statements she's made, when pressed on that, she'll say that she is absolutely backing a green, uh, pro environmental policies, that her focus will be on increasing access to renewable energy, and looking to find ways to, again, grow that part of our economy, that part of our infrastructure. So that said, um, she doesn't, does she say, and then, and she's banning fracking first? No, what I'm reading into that, and I might just be a little optimistic here, but what I'm reading into that is a push to support the green infrastructure, the renewable energy infrastructure, so that it takes off in a way that makes fracking obsolete, right? That to focus on where to put the energy may well make fracking and other unsustainable practices fall by the wayside as the dinosaurs they are, pun intended. Okay, that all said, it is very important that we do move that direction. It is very important that we do move towards environmental action. Not even move towards it. It's so important that we just take it, as we know it is an emergency that is all around us right now. And again, I'm going to say the best hope we have is getting Harris and Walz elected, and then continuing and increasing our organizing efforts to get even more progress around renewable energy, climate change mitigation, and stopping the militarization and genocide that are happening. These are all really urgent, pressing life and death situations. And the only hope we have for any positive action in these regards is the Harris Walz ticket. So please don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Please put on all of your analytical thinking hats and stay organized, stay active, stay together. And I will now go ahead and switch to our tarot section of the morning. I think it's fabulous that we have actually gotten popular enough to attract a troll. Rock on. Thanks, Elliot, for being there. Now I know I'm actually being effective. So, thanks to all of us. Thanks to everyone who creates this community together on Friday mornings. It is wonderful to see y'all every Friday. And, it warms my heart. I would love for us to actually have a little public event at some point in the near future so we can meet and greet because we need to get strong and stay strong. We need to organize together. All right. So, what do the tarot cards say? They say this. Yes, they're all upside down. We have the Tower. We know that is Teresa's least favorite card. We have the King of Wands. And we have the Hangman. What does this all mean? Well, wouldn't you like to know? Well, here we go. What we have basically, the inverted tower says, hey, change is happening. It's going to happen whether we like it or not. It is, there is absolutely nothing that stays steady and static all the time. These changes are big, these changes are sweeping, and they are happening. So, what are we going to do about it? All we can do is actually pay attention, use our analytical hats, and to navigate a course through. I will always advocate solidarity and mutual aid as our safest course through any tumult. So, this is the card of tumult, and it is specifically when it is inverted, it says you really can't just fight it off. Change is happening, change is going to happen. Look carefully for a good place to land. And I always throw in there, help each other out with some safe landings. Okay. The King of Wands inverted points to not really being prudent. It points to that kind of decision making that doesn't have a lot of foundation behind it. Decision making that is like capricious. So this is a card that warns us not to be capricious. It tells us to really remember our will that drives us, our passions that drive us forward have to be firmly how's that held, right? That to sort of go, oh, I love this thing, I love that thing, I love that thing over there, is not really helping. To have a plan, to get your analysis, and to hold steady, to know your will, and to move forward. That is a better way to go than sort of, we've talked about jumping at shadows before. There's been a lot of tarot guidance against jumping at shadows. This is sort of that same idea amped up large. Not only not jumping at shadows, but really being methodical about where we put our energy, where we put our push, and what our will center is that's driving us. And then we have the hanged man. Oh, kitty, right? So the hanged man talks about submitting to the way of things when things get sort of out of control and you're not really sure what, there's just the idea of acceptance, the idea of not being able to push the river. And so it's not satisfying sometimes, but it is how life goes. So when I see the tower and the hangman coming up in the same reading, both inversed, what this says to me is that we have there are changes around that we're not going to love. But we need to not um, waste a lot of time trying to fight inevitable things. I think I'm going to go ahead and read this as what I was mentioning about the perfect being the enemy of the good. Change is happening. We have to be methodical and we have to hold on to each other as change happens. We have to strengthen each other. We have to be there for each other. And so that is what the cards say, to know your will, to hold true, to understand change is happening, and the best way through it is together. We cannot be passive. The hanged man being inverted gives us that extra push to not just sort of throw our hands up and say, well, okay, submission. All right, nothing I can do about it. Whatevs. I'm not even going to vote. No, that's actually not it. This is a reminder that, patience and acceptance, they're not virtues past a point. That there is probably something one can do to help to better the situation. And I am going to put it out there that I believe that something better we can do is push and push hard for the Harris Walz ticket so that we can continue to organize for the social good, for economic, environmental, and social justice, so that we can push forward a much better progressive agenda to carry us into the future. That's what I got. I thank you all so much for joining us this morning, joining me this morning. Let us please hold tight together and continue to support each other, find paths to mutual aid, create vibrant mutual aid networks in our communities, within our families, our circles. Thank you all so very much for being. And we might see you next week. We will be doing a little tiny bit of traveling, and we'll see what the signal's like. With that, see you next week or the week after for sure. And we love you. As Teresa would say, our love goes out to you and all the ships at sea. Have a fabulous weekend. It's so good to see everyone this morning. Please do have a good week, and we'll see you soon. Be strong together. Practice solidarity like our lives depend on it, because they do.